Okay, well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Foreign Correspondents Club of Japan and to today's press conference. I'm Anthony Rowley, a former president of the club, and I'll be actually acting as moderator today. And the subject of our conference today is how can Asia fortify itself against trade and investment challenges? Very topical, I think, because obviously with the Trump tariffs and other problems, these challenges are very real. And to address this question, we have Professor Ahn Choong Yong, sitting to my right, who is a distinguished professor at the Graduate School of International Studies at Chung-Ang University in Seoul. He's recently published a book here, which you can buy now, published by Routledge in England, which explores South Korea's pioneering attitude towards foreign direct investment. Pioneering in the sense that South Korea really believes that you should not just simply attract foreign companies to come and invest in your country. You must take care of them afterwards and make sure that the rules are clear and the law doesn't distinguish against them in any way. In fact, Korea was the first country in the world to introduce the position of foreign investment ombudsman, whose job it is to make sure that foreign investors are treated fairly. So Professor Ahn will be explaining that in detail. I just should say he was formerly chairman of the APEC Economic Committee and president of the Korean Institute for International Economic Policy. I will say no more. I'll allow Professor Ahn to begin, please, if you would.
Thank you very much. So, 皆様、おはようございます。Thank you very much, Mr. Rowley, for such a kind introduction. Well, I'm really delighted to be here. And let me start by thanking first the Mr. Naoyuki Haraoka-san, who arranged this meeting. And also, I would like to express my thanks to the Saikawa-san to make the event notice with the very nice introduction of the major contact, I want to deliver. Actually, I proposed to Mr. Haraoka-san to talk about basically the message of the book. I just published it early last year, and then the Haraoka-san suggested that, well, why don't we have a press conference at the prestigious Foreign Correspondent Club? And then the Saikawa-san expanded the coverage of my presentation, including a trade aspect. Well, the trade and the investment, go side by side. It's two sides of the same coin. So I'm very much pleased to share my thought on this. And, according to my book, I want to draw some implications from the Korean experience. Well, here in my book, I'm trying to carry the message, the aftercare service. This is rather, a new concept for existing foreign companies, highly effective in facilitating the cross-border foreign direct investment, ensuring supply chain resilience, and most importantly, offsetting the loss of free trade by the President Trump's unilateral protectionism and high tariff hike. So by providing aftercare services, my message is that will improve business confidence in the host economy and trigger deregulation for better business environment. Well, you have observed the collapse of the WTO liberal order and the rising of the Trump round, what we call. Mm-hmm. Well, we observed, instead of the strengthening WTO multilateralism, regionalism, like CPTPP, RCEP, and USMC, has prevailed in the past 20 years or something like that. Most importantly, U.S. disengaged now from WTO system. U.S. blocked the WTO appellate body appointment and now ongoing the Trump round. Then we also observed that the weaponized of strategic materials like the rare earth, something like that. And now in the forthcoming, the Trump round here, I can see that the trade politics will remain transactional and power-based rather than rules-based. And then maybe selective decoupling between China and the West might occur, but we still need to address climate-linked trade rules. And multilateral forums, CPTPP, RCEP will emerge again. Then the dispute settlement somehow restored within the WTO. Well, the Paul Krugman at the Financial Times interview, he claimed that we are entering an era of might makes right trade relations and the transactional views of the world system. And on the other hand, the ambassador, Jamison Korea of the USTR, he mentioned that depending, President Trump policy in the past the years after the World War II, United States has paid enough for the GATT and WTO system, while the U.S. incurring the loss of manufacturing jobs and economic security, and most importantly, trade deficit. So therefore, this imbalance should be rebalanced through the Trump round. This is a very contrasting view between the Krugman and then the ambassador, the Korea. Then the mainstream, the economists, including the Charles Bowen and Irwin, in foreign affairs articles, tariff-driven coercions in trade as well as foreign direct investment will undermine a global economic growth in medium term as well as in long term. The choice of the high tariff is really not the appropriate. In terms of the macroeconomic logic. Okay, this is my personal view. Whichever direction we go, everything will depend on how the United States and China play out their own game in the years to come for the regional hegemony. Make America great again versus Chinese dream, which could be realized in 2049. So it's two countries will undergo a competitive coexistence or zero-sum confrontations. So whichever it goes, all the international trade and the investment environment will be affected. And so here, I think this East Asia, fortunately, we have a great hedging device against MAGA, through which we can fortify the East Asia's existing architecture. Number one is that while the U.S. steps back, CPTPP and RCEP could, save the current, demolition of the multilateral system. And if these two mega deals combined together for eventual amalgamations, I think that could be a good signal for the re-globalization, reintegration of the world system. In the meantime, ASEAN Economic Community, which concluded 10 years ago, could progress further to fortify East Asia's existing architecture. And then I think the East Asian economies should respect multi-party interim appeal and arbitration system to replace a dysfunctional WTO dispute settlement mechanism. Well, East Asia, we can do a lot of things. I'll come back this later on. Especially, I would like to emphasize that East Asian economies need to avoid sort of the dumping practice. We need to agree on how to, invoke on anti-dumping measures. Well, this shows the RCEP and the CPTPP, their background and the special features on RCEP. It has missing chapters or very weak chapters. Investor-state dispute settlement and the labor clause, environmental clause, e-commerce, IPR, intellectual property right is either missing or very weakly treated within the RCEP, despite it's the largest free trade agreement compared to CPTPP. Well, again here, RCEP indeed is a very big hope, but weakly institutionalized with the limited enforceability. And especially RCEP includes ecotech agenda. And so it's different from CPTPP in a way. And then e-commerce rules in the RCEP should be also strengthened compared to CPTPP standard. And then, what I would like to suggest that the RCEP members may adopt what I call here peer review process as a built-in mechanism as we observe the APEC's CTI Committee for Trade and Investment implementation. And fortunately, RCEP support unit was established December last year, and it should be fully staffed until we see the Secretariat Office of the RCEP. Well, the CPTPP is a variant of the Trans-Pacific Partnership abandoned by the President Trump his first term. And I really admire Japan's effort to salvage CPTPP. It shows a model of non-hegemonic middle power leadership. Japan in that sense contributed a really great deal, as Kurugman also pointed out this. But the problem with the CPTPP is that it has very limited size and it lacks major players. So it should be expanded. The membership should be expanded to counterbalance the US or China's unilateralism. For this purpose, I would like to see that CPTPP incorporate ready entrant from East Asia in the perhaps medium or long run, maybe European Union, if join the CPTPP, that will make it really enlive the multilateralism, even in the absence of the United States. And therefore, I think CPTPP, for that matter, RCEP, can act as scaffolding for regional bilateral order in East Asia. Well, here, 7 countries belong to both CPTPP and RCEP. Therefore, those 7 economies, plus with the other international effort, they should be combined together to make a great building block for multilateralism. Well, then for this purpose, I think I would like to propose the CJK, Japan, China, Korea free trade agreement somehow needs to be resumed within the RCEP plus framework, because 3 countries are already a member of the RCEP. Therefore, we are indirectly linked to each other. I think this is a great springboard in which we can carry on some, actionable agenda immediately. For example, CJK digital agreement and the CJK e-commerce, and most importantly, the message, hey, let's 3 countries adopt the South Korean type of post-investment aftercare system in the investment chapters. Well, with that much, let me move on this, the cross-border FDI flows. This is very important to survive the unprecedented protectionism. The TILF, trade, investment, liberalization, and the facilitation has been the catchwords for the APEC, all the international the meetings. Therefore, this cross-border FDI flows must be emphasized to compensate for the loss of trade incurred by the U.S. Trumpism and U.S. unilateralism. Well, cross-border FDI is indeed a key to offsetting the Trump around the trade curves. We need to provide a non-discrimination policy, and then here we need to create a balanced investor-state dispute settlement the mechanism, ensuring fairness between investors and the host economies too. Is essential for a level playing field. Well, here South Korea's FDI economics, I briefly mentioned that South Korea adopted, the proactive investment, the inducement of foreign direct investment, as well as aftercare services during the Asian financial crisis. We used to rely on foreign borrowing, never really, inclined to induce actively, but Asian financial crisis, made South Korea, you see, no choice, but actively inducing foreign direct investment, and then the post-care, the aftercare system. And then, I served 9 years for foreign investment ombudsman. I experienced that this would help really for South Korea's, high-tech development and deregulating existing the rigid the legal structure. The key message, I have already mentioned that by adopting this aftercare system will help mitigating rising investor-state dispute. I think this is a very important point as far as I'm concerned. And UNCTAD, the World Bank, APEC recognized the efficacy of the aftercare system. And my recommendation is that let's stipulate this aftercare service system in updating all the international investment agreement and regional, free trade, agreement, so on. Well, the aftercare service is why important. I already mentioned that, but let me see, Brazil and Kazakhstan, they benchmarked a Korean system, and Russia also, did, but in their own way to tailor their own needs. This statistic shows, investor-state dispute settlement cases are really rising. This is a serious obstacle to cross-border foreign direct investment, okay? Mm-hmm. If a big project, especially on the infrastructure development, involves in the investor-state dispute, just everything, suspended. It goes very timely and costly litigation process. So we need to avoid, this thing. And this has been addressed by the United States and all other countries at the UNCTAD meeting. And, I want to mention about this international investor agreement. At the moment, we have about 3,000 international investment agreement, bilateral or plurilateral. But it's very old, agreed on 20 or 30 years ago, and didn't address properly the critical issues like the climate change and also, the fair the footing between investors and the host government. Therefore, this old international investment agreement regime must be updated, okay? And so the global trend is that the new international investment agreement tends to follow cooperation and the facilitation investment agreement rather than directly confronting each other to maximize their own, the benefit. So in that case, I think this here, my argument of inclusion of aftercare services is very appropriate. And in Korea, we have a twin institution, Invest Korea, and which is responsible for attracting new investment, okay? And then Office of Foreign Investment Ombudsman provide aftercare services for those multinational companies which already invested in Korea. So these two institutions operate side by side. Let me share a couple of examples because I'm here in Japan. Japanese, the three major photocopier companies, including the Canon and the Fuji Xerox, Sinderico, they invested very heavily in Korea to manufacture photocopy machines in Korea. But the Korean government, to carry on some deregulations, okay, they removed the policy of a pre-customs inspection criteria, okay, into a post-customs clearance. As a result, a lot of the second-hand photocopy machines were imported from the US or something like that by Korean importers. As a result, the sales of Japanese companies dropped by almost 50%, several millions of dollars. So they appealed to me, hey, restore back to a pre-customs clearance inspection criteria. Well, in a sense, that is, a re-regulate of existing, system. So I contacted the various government agencies, including the Ministry of Government and the Ministry of Industrial Commerce, and indicating that, hey, the Japanese investors suffer from tremendous business loss, and we should restore back the pre-customs, the clearance inspection. That's what I did. And here in Seoul, we suffer a lot the housing shortage, problems. And the Korean government all of a sudden announced that the Dongtan area near the Seoul, in the vicinity of Seoul, to make it a new town development, so that every international manufacturing or whatever facilities must be relocated, should move out of this, Dongtan area. And about 20, foreign multinational companies. Oh boy, they approached me, hey, look here, we've been doing our business here in the past 30 years or 20 years. Some companies just completed their new, factory office about just a week ago. Now you're saying that we should to move out? That means, shut down your business operations. Oh boy, then I went on the spot and analyzed the whole thing. They are all the R&D oriented, no involvement in the air, pollution, so on. Then I approached the Prime Minister's office and said, look here, Mr. Prime Minister, these companies are all the, can reside to the residential area like this. You see, the in Silicon Valley, the venture startups, okay, they are located in the middle of the housing residential area, and they could be treated as if a laboratory for the existing, junior high schools or something like that. So they, convinced my argument, and under, Prime Minister, actually, I reported even the presidential, the International Competitive Committee, okay, this issue must be resolved so that those foreign companies stayed in place, as they are originally. And but later on, there were also some charges and capital gain tax. I also worked for that, and those foreign companies here, not for land speculations, and therefore this charge of undue tax is also, in a sense, very illogical. So Minister of Construction listened to me, and they relaxed that additional imposition of a tax charge, okay? Just these two examples. I have some more, couple of things, but for the sake of the time, let me sketch these two other cases. UNCTAD, the prestigious the Conference for Trade and Investment Development, last year reported that the Republic of Korea pioneered the institutionalization of an ombudsman mechanism for resolving foreign investment-related grievances. They indicate in the report, and also saying that from 2018 to 2012, Korea's Foreign Investment Office settled 1,746 grievances cases, which many of them otherwise could be developed in here costly the litigation process, and this is very well recognized by the UNCTAD, the prestigious authoritative report. And here, the delegation from UNCTAD office, consisting of 12 different countries, they visited my office and to listen to how we carry on the aftercare services, and they went back to spread out the message to the host economies. And so implications to international advocacy agencies, FDA advocacy agencies, okay? Hey, let's incorporate aftercare clause in updating international investment agreement, as well as all the regional free trade agreement to ensure that the more business-friendly environment. So we have a proverb saying that one stitch in the crisis was 9 stitches afterwards. Okay, that's the main message I'm trying to get out. All right, by showing this, let me conclude my presentation. There's a Daegu Tech, which is a cutting tool, company, and exporting about 30 different countries in the whole world. And Daegu Tech, they expanded their, manufacturing the operations. They need the electric power voltage, transformer, much higher level, and they appealed to me. Hey, this is for the Korea's high-tech development. The Korean government should provide, this electric power voltage. So I studied very hard, and then recommended it for the Korea's Minister of Industry. Hey, this is a high-tech company. We should provide the necessary power, infrastructure to the companies. That's what I did. And Warren Buffett heard that story, and he made purchase 100% of shares, that's a blind, the blank sort of the purchase agreement. And since then, the Warren Buffett spread about that the words, okay, Korea's aftercare services to the other multinational companies. And I noted that this word of mouth by influential foreign investors are very, very critical to induce multinational companies into Korea. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much, Mr. Rowley.
Okay, well, thank you, Professor Ahn. Do we have any questions from the floor or online? I would like to just start things off by asking one question, and that is, Donald Trump, President of the United States, seems to be doing his best to try to fragment or destroy the global economy, but so far the economy is resilient. Economies are still growing, although at a slow pace. So my question is, how long do you think it will be before the impact of Trump tariffs begins to have a real impact on foreign investment and on trade? In other words, have we not seen the worst yet? I'd just like to hear your view on that, whether...
Okay, I mean, Trump adopted already, high tariff policy. In case of Korea, I think that we should pay for the 15%, okay, for all the Korean product exported to United, despite Korea's the U.S.-Korea free trade agreement. We used to export our automobiles and a lot of manufacturing stuff at the zero tariff rate.
Right.
Now, we face a 15% extra charge. I think for Japan also 15%, So this obviously is restrict the flow of Korean export into United States, and a lot of these companies, the countries charged by the U.S. tariff. Okay, that's the trade side. But the other side, okay, Mr. Rowley, Trump also adopted a very coercive commitment for all those, trading partners to invest in the United States. Despite U.S. is not ready to absorb those investments in terms of the manpower supply and etc. But you see, Koreans and Japanese companies, we are all twisted by our arms, okay? Korean automobile companies, Japanese automobile companies, batteries, they have to invest in the United States, okay? Despite some economic irrationality, to that extent, the cross-border investment is very much hampered. So what shall we do? All I'm saying is that, hey, without the United States, okay, we should promote a cross-border foreign direct investment and, cross-border the trade, even in the absence of the U.S. through the CPTPP or regional comprehensive economic partnership agreement. I mean, that's the way, you see, we can survive. And then I think what I'm hoping is that, for example, if European Union joined the CPTPP, and that will become very significant free trade bloc, and the United States cannot ignore the voices of those expanded CPTPP. So we should be able to preserve, you see, some the liberal free trade order contained within the WTO.
Yes, I see that, but it's important that the CPTPP should support this initiative, but it's in the interest of companies, industrial companies and business companies, to at the moment they seem to be trying to please Trump and say, yes, 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 we will do whatever you ask. So you need really the support of very high-level industrialists, don't you? I mean, in order to get this message home, industrialists, heads of companies need to say, we are not going to invest cross-border unless you change your policies. So are you optimistic that industry, powerful businessmen are going to support your very important initiatives?
Yes, I think this many countries intertwined with the United States in terms of trade as well as foreign direct investment. For example, South Korea, we badly needed the U.S. investment in Korea, for example, semiconductor pre-production as well as post-production. Therefore, we can never sever the relationship with the U.S. in terms of trade and the investment. After all, U.S. In many products still serves as a #1 market in the world, and so I think this. That's why many countries are trying to yield down. Trump's assertive sort of demand because of this existing linkage with the U.S. But all I'm saying is that, okay, we are while negotiating by item with the U.S. For example, in case of Korea, okay, Trump is very much just interested in Korea's shipbuilding industry, and okay, we can offer something. Okay, in return, please reduce the tariff rate charged on Korean product. I think the same thing for Japanese too. Shipping industry and Japan has a lot of this some advantage over the U.S. like this Alaskan pipeline project or something like that. So individual countries, in a sense, should engage with the United States, not decoupling from them. That's unfortunately our destination, right? But in the meantime, even without the U.S., okay, the rest of economies, let's make it more self-supporting, self-sufficient economic entity, like through RCEP and CPTPP, especially for RCEP. Okay, it has the largest, the free trade agreement, but it's very weak in terms of the, institutionalization. Therefore, if we strengthen that RCEP, adopting a lot of the WTO legacies, okay, U.S. playing its own ground, but the rest of the world is playing another ground to protect the WTO element and core principles like the UK and the United States, the European Union. I think that joined together with the CPTPP, that would be a tremendous, economic bloc to minimize the impact of the Trump. Maybe Trump might, the U.S. even have to, U.S. may return, we will join the expanded CPTPP rather than isolating from. That's the way we should preserve our liberal free trade order.
Okay. Question from the floor. No question from the floor? I do have another question. That is, I know that UNCTAD publishes figures on FDI, and I haven't studied them closely, but I believe that FDI from advanced economies into developing economies has been declining. But since Trump came to power again, has there been a fall-off in FDI between China and Korea and other advanced economies? I'm not clear about that. What impact has Trump had on FDI into the more advanced economies? I'm not up to date on that.
Well, I think the incoming flow foreign direct investment into the United States will increase as a result of, the coercive FDI commitment policy by not the economic logic, by Trump. And to that extent, the potential FDI flows, the rest of the world would be affected because many of them, going to the U.S. market. But on the other hand, I think that's why we need to augment further cross-border foreign direct investment within the RCEP member or within the CPTPP members. By adhering the principles prescribed in the investment treaties, I think that we should double down our own intra-regional effort to ensure first the supply chain resilience. No choice, for that. And also for that matter, I think that China should play a very important role. And China, in a sense, need to avoid the weaponization of strategic material like the rare earths, cobalt, and manganese, all that. And China is now the leading the trade-oriented economy, the second largest economy, should stay on the WTO principles. If China do that, and maybe we can see some bandwagon effect, even in the absence of the U.S. hegemonic, leadership. That's the point I'm really trying to make it. For that matter, I think this Japan's leadership in the CPTPP, conclusion, has marvelous job. And then, Japan now with the collaboration with Australia and Canada, and now adopted the UK, right, as a new member, and, adopt further some other, ready entrant like the South Korea and Thailand and Indonesia, something like that. And eventually, I don't know, European Union as a whole, can join. I mean, it's sort of the very important long-term issues. If that could be done, I think, I hope that the legacies of the WTO principles are still, alive right there.
Yes, let's hope so. You have a meeting tomorrow, I understand. You have a meeting tomorrow with the Japan, Korea, China round table.
Yeah.
Are you hoping to put that message over at this round table? I mean, I'm not quite clear what you're going to be discussing there, but and what level of people will be attending that meeting. But is that going to be a useful platform?
Okay, Japan, China, and South Korea, we are immediate neighbors, right? And security-wise and history-wise, we have very uncomfortable relationship. But it's very true that economically, we are so interdependent each other. And even foreign direct investment, we are interdependent each other. I mean, South Korea is the largest export market is still China. Okay, we rely on the medium semiconductors. It must be imported from China, and also many things in Japan too. Whenever I picked up something, like for example, this one looks so nice, okay, and the glassware, this stuff, and then I look at here, oh boy, it's made in China. This all the made in China product is basically all over in the Korea's, the market, and very common tradable items. It's also very cheap. My shoes, I also bought one new one, but cushion is very good. Oh boy, later on I look at the label made in China.
Made in China, yes.
Maybe many things here, same thing true in Japan. And therefore, so I think we need to, trade each other to ensure supply chain resilience. But the trouble is that, I don't know, I mentioned that the China dream by 24/9, okay? China, I mean, as far as I see it, want to be hegemonic power in the world. And maybe China could be very much assertive as much now. Currently, United States, is doing. In fact, that's what the Korean companies experienced in China. We invested a lot in China, and sometimes Korean companies suffered, a lot, sudden taxation from Chinese authorities, and then sudden suspension of business permits, okay? Therefore, many Korean companies had to withdraw from Chinese market, okay? So now heading to the Vietnam or Indonesia, Thailand, even now in India, I mean, after all, the domestic wage of Chinese keep rising, but more importantly, the foreign invested companies not equally treated in China. Well, Korea and China agreed on bilateral FTA about 20 years ago. When I served the foreign investment ombudsman, I conveyed the message to Korean negotiator, hey, please include aftercare services for each other. Okay? I mean, Chinese authority will provide aftercare services for Korean investors. I mean, Korea has been already doing that for Chinese companies. I'm inviting the Chinese investors breakfast or luncheon meeting. Hey, what's your problem? I can help you or something like that. But Korean companies, no, venue to express grievances. Okay, but we did agree on the one clause saying that hey, each side will register a designated agency through which one can register a complaint. That's it. But enforcement from Chinese side has been very weak, unfortunately. Yeah.
That's an important point. Yeah. Final call for questions. No one has a question. I'm surprised not to hear. Oh yes, this gentleman. Can you come to the microphone, please, and say who you are, and then ask your question. You can raise it if it's too low. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. So thank you very much for your talk today. My name is Kensuke Yanagida, and I'm a research fellow at the Japan Institute of International.
Could I just ask? Sorry. Yeah. Professor Ahn has an ear infection. He has an ear infection. Yeah.
Sure.
So could you speak as clearly as
louder like this? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so my name is Kensuke Yanagida. I'm a research fellow at the Japan Institute of International Affairs, JIIA. We are a foreign policy think tank. So my question is how do you think about the new the world trading system would be besides the way that maybe perhaps we have to look for some alternative pathway, like through CPTPP expansion or strengthening the RCEP provisions. However, I think there are different trends we are observing today. So rising geopolitical tensions, and also the more importance of the economic securities. So how do you think these, if you think about the kind of a new trading system, how would it be to incorporate these new trends? Thank you.
Yes, I think that is very good, important questions. I said during my presentation, okay, RCEP is differentiated from the CPTPP because RCEP addresses ecotech issues explicitly, providing the capacity build-up, okay, for less developed nations among the RCEP members, like the Cambodia, Laos, etc., something like that. So basic nature of the RCEP is, different from the CPTPP. CPTPP is basically addressing, advanced the commitment on the free trade and the investment. Therefore, how to reconcile between the RCEP and the CPTPP is really, really challenging issue. And of course, RCEP is dominant by China, okay, in terms of the economic size and the influence. And then, how is the RCEP is developed under the China's ambition to become hegemonic power in the 24/9. Therefore, to counterbalance of China's influence within the RCEP, at the beginning, I think that many members wanted India to join the RCEP to counterbalance China's domination, but India had withdrawn that. I think that for this matter and this very big challenging issue, how we can enhance credibility and mutual respect among, the ASEAN members, okay? China plus ASEAN, then Australia, New Zealand, okay, Japan and Korea, South Korea is right there. And Japan and China vis-a-vis also South Korea has some, very uncomfortable security relations. I mean, if the navigation of freedom, okay, is becoming issue, and maybe the whole system is becoming, sort of very much dangerous. Therefore, I think this China's action, okay, setting security issues aside, and how we can enhance mutual trust, credibility, and for that matter, I think this China should play a leadership role. First, very heavy commitment of WTO principles, okay? Most favored nation treatment to all the foreign companies stationed in China, and also the fair trade. If China did carry on subsidized the dumping practice, their product into, say, Korean market or Japanese market, for example, the solar panel, okay, a typical example, even a battery is very heavily subsidized by Chinese company, and with subsidized product to penetrate a Korean market, or Korea's solar panel companies, no way, everything will collapse down. And even the battery is also a serious danger. So I always advocate, okay, fair competition is fine on a level playing field, but intentional, penetration of subsidized product at the dumping practice, I think this must be avoided. Well, I'm going to emphasize this aspect on forthcoming CJK round. All right. I mean, China, okay, let's improve, enhance quality of the RCEP almost 5 years in a row, but in practice, okay, they are, way away from this achievement. I mean, that is my personal feeling. So I really want to see China play the game within the rules-based and transparent and the fair footing, the equal basis. If that comes, I don't know, if security issues or economic issues, they intermingle each other, but it's very uncertain world as far as if we're setting aside security issues aside, okay? That's my,
Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Good.
Thank you. And do you think that...
Sorry, because it goes on the record, and yes.
Thank you. Thank you for your answer. And my follow-up question is, do you think that the U.S.-China negotiations address the issues that you just raised, the concerns about China's trade practices?
These two big two whales, fight each other. And in a sense, I was sort of relieved, two countries agreed on the suspension of the, trade negotiation, and maybe, tearing down the high tariff again, but we are going to see, with each other. And, but I think that the Trump policy is, in a sense, very unpredictable, okay? Which way, he moves, and it makes everybody off balance, okay? I mean, on China, oh boy, he said just, a merciless, imposition of high tariff, but suddenly, all right, okay, hey, let's negotiate, and then he further extended. But I think that the big question is that, I don't know, U.S. and China, I think they fight for hegemonic leadership. They fight for each other, the high-tech supremacy, especially 5G, AI. Okay, I think the U.S. and China, they fight each other neck and neck. And by all means, China want to maintain the superiority in the AI development. And so, as recently you can see that, you see, DeepSeek of China, okay, it's homemade, you see, high-tech firms. I mean, surprised the whole world. And China's put this massive investment, okay, government intervened investment, AI manpower development. I noted that the AI PhDs in China produce yearly, 3,000, something like that, from Tsinghua University, Beijing, so on, so on, with all the, the government, the full government, support programs. In South Korea, we have annually about 150 versus 3,000, okay? So no competition here. Even the AI, you see, related international, the journal articles, China's now top the United States.
Really?
In terms of the quality, if you look at the impact quotient, okay? So that's possible by the heavy central government intervention, okay?
Yes,
Single party system and massive injection of the government support. But United States already fragmented, okay? You have to go through all the various ministerial coordinations on. But many say that, hey, Chinese system is more efficient, more, efficacy than US system. I don't know, But actually, the Trump policy is that he wants to gain the absolute advantage, leadership over the China's challenge on the AI area. And with this current system, I don't know which is more superior than the other. Well, anyway, these two are going to compete each other, and depending upon working for a competitive coexistence, or hey, we don't care. We should, take the leadership at the expense of the other one, and the confrontation between two are becoming more, intensified, and that the fallout from those intensified competition would be, tremendous throughout the entire world system.
Yeah. Japan, of course, is a major investor in Asia and beyond, including in infrastructure. But Japan doesn't seem to exercise leadership, true leadership, really. Do you think Japan needs to be more aggressive in its asserting its role as a regional leader?
Well, I think Japan used to be, number 3 economy, a third economy, largest economy in the world, right? And now India is going to take over. We don't have, according to the projection, by 2027, India will become the third largest economy, and Japan went through what we call the lost decade, 2 decades after the Plaza Agreement. And so I think this, I would like to say that Japan, using this CPTPP, the arrangement, and construct a very collaborative mechanism with the neighbors, like the South Korea, and many new members of the CPTPP. So in terms of numbers and the market size, make it compatible with the China or either the United States. On that score, I think the Japanese leadership is very, very critical, and I hope this Korea and Japan, the collaboration and the high-tech areas, even in the security area, I think we can work together. And plus, I think this Japan and South Korea, we should raise big flag to address global, the common issues like the climate change and the pandemic, something like that. International, public goods. Trump pull out of the WHO and pull out of the UNESCO and pull out of this, ILO, everything, okay? He doesn't care about all the global public goods issues. So who's going to take over that? European Union and, Japan, okay? I mean, we should raise the big flag of these issues are, very critical. What we call we should avoid the Kindleberg trap, right? So I hope this Japan, will do that, and I really hope that Japan and South Korea can work together. First, is the democratic political system, and plural, party system, ignoring all this past history, and we should go, look forward. Otherwise, we're going to be a merciless victim of huge China's assertiveness, and on top of this, Trump's unilateral, coercion.
So. Okay, well, thank you for that statesman-like statement. And thank you for some very interesting perspectives. I think I, for one, have certainly learned a lot this morning. And I hope we can have another event in the future and perhaps follow up on some of these points. In the meantime, thank you for coming today. We'd like to have you again as a guest or a speaker again in the future. In the meantime, I'd like to offer you a one-year honorary membership of the club.
Okay.
So thank you very much for your presentation. Please join me in thanking Professor Ahn. Thank you. Rocky Swift, Reuters news agency. He says, does the current trade deal with the United States result in subsidizing lower tariffs on automakers at the expense of companies that make these huge US government-linked investments in America? It's rather complicated. Maybe you should read the question there.
Yeah. I think the substance of the autos.
Right.
Yes. It is really funny. United States has really condemned any subsidies. In fact, United States attacked Japan very much during the Meiji era. Okay, Japan's targeted industrial promotion and government support, so on. But now, U.S. is exactly doing the same thing.
Sure.
Heavy subsidy to the central government to private sector, and how can U.S. then can bark at the China's behavior? Okay, China is also have such, and China is quoting, "Hey, look at the U.S. Trump policy with the heavy subsidy and to promote targeted industry." Therefore, I think this subsidies to automobiles and the batteries and semiconductors. Okay, U.S. want to build up its manufacturing base, which they lost with even subsidized program. In a sense, the United States is emulating China's behavior, China's policy. Okay, the way China has been promoting, China's semiconductor and AI especially. So these two big guys, competing each other with the government, have subsidy, and the fallout of this subsidized competition is rest on the rest of this, the economy, the middle power economy. So, the only solution we can resolve is that the coalition of the middle powers. Okay, but on a sort of the fair, sort of unified agreement. If we follow the exactly same subsidized program, okay, the world will involve in the subsidized, trade war, subsidized investment war, something like that. But let's forget about the U.S. and even China's subsidy program. Okay, within the rest of our like-minded countries, should stay on this transparent program to survive collectively while protesting the subsidized program of these big two guys. That's my position at the moment. At most we can do.
All right. Okay, well, thank you for answering that extra question. So that ends the session. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Hi, thank you very much, Mr. Wally.